Hello, in this video we'll take a look at Unit 3, Activity 3, and it is called Critical Thinking and Taking Action. And in this activity we'll look a little deeper at climate change as a topic, and you'll write your second news report draft. And so if we take a look at the Minds On, we're going to start with three kind of interesting images. They're all animal imagery. So you've got one here, a second image right here, and a third image right here. And they are all images from the Global Goals campaign, which is something that we've touched on in Unit 1 and in Unit 2 as well too. I think if you look closely at each of the images, they're trying to convey something about climate change or global warming. And so what I'd like you to do is take a look at those three images, and then in your notes, you don't have to hand this in, this isn't an assignment, but in your notes we're going to see if we can break down these images and understand them better. So I'm going to ask you to choose one of the three Global Goals images and answer these four questions in your notes. So what is the image's message? Who is the image's intended audience? What do you think the image is trying to persuade its audience to believe, think, or do? And the fourth one, do you think the image is effective? Will it persuade people to take action? So take these four questions and apply it to one of these three images. What we're doing here is we're just trying to get a sense for how images can influence us and how images can present messages to us. Later in this activity, we're going to look further at how media, in specifically media images, can kind of persuade us and kind of influence us. And hopefully we'll think more about how it is necessary to look more critically and to look more in depth at the media images that we see on a regular basis. So with that said, that's kind of our warm-up activity. That's our little introduction. If we move on to action, you're going to see that our first assignment in this activity, and there will be two assignments in this activity, is a reading response questions assignment. And so I'm going to ask you to read an article called Ahead of Climate Talks, Canada's North Feels the Toughest Impacts. And that article is right here, so you can read through the whole article right on the webpage right here. And then as always, with reading responses, you're going to respond to three questions. And so our first question is a typical one that we almost always do when we look at a news report or a narrative. It's going to ask you to summarize the article's main idea in one sentence and provide two supporting details from the article which support the main idea. So again, you're getting your detail right from this article right here. The second question is going to ask you, does the writer fully explain and support her points? Provide two specific details from the article to support your opinion. And then the third question is going to ask you to choose an alternative title for the news article. So the title right now is kind of a lengthy one, Ahead of Climate Talks, Canada's North Feels the Toughest Impacts. I'm asking you to come up with an alternative title, so your own title for this article. Explain why you've chosen that title, why it's appropriate, and then provide specific details from the article which support your reasoning. As always, when you've finished answering the reading response questions, you can submit them right to the Dropbox here. All right, then we'll continue on, and like I said earlier, we're going to look at how we can critically examine the media and why it's important that we maybe take a deeper look at the media messages that we're receiving. And so you've got a kind of a little kind of a silly example here of an image that popped up in the media on April Fool's Day, on April 1st. And you've actually got a website here you can check out on some of the most famous April Fool's Day hoaxes. And so every April 1st, of course, you have certain media outlets, and sometimes people try to do the same thing to their family and friends. We try to trick people, and we try to pull off hoaxes and kind of create I guess what we would call in 2021 fake news. And usually it's done in fun on April 1st, but I would argue that all throughout the year we should have our guard up and we should be paying attention to the media and to what we're hearing and reading and seeing to make sure that it's authentic and truthful and that we're not being tricked or manipulated. And some of the ways you can do that is by asking yourself questions when you see a media text or when you watch something on television or when you hear something on the radio. So you can ask yourself these questions. Who created this text? The person or the company that creates a media message usually has a reason for it and usually has an agenda, right? What qualifications does the creator of the text have as an expert or an authority on the topic? Who is the intended audience for the text? What is the purpose of the message of this text? What techniques are being used to hold your attention? What point of view is being presented in this text? And what point of view is missing from this text? Oftentimes in the media, we get a one-sided opinion, or we only get to hear one side of an issue in a media message. Usually we get the opinion of the author or the opinion of the company that is presenting the message. So what's important to realize is that oftentimes there is another side to the story or another side to the message that we're hearing. And we can kind of remind ourselves and maybe think about that more if we ask ourselves these questions. And so we're going to kind of practice that. And we're going to examine media. And in this case, we're going to examine a video. And this is a video clip with famous Canadian scientist David Suzuki. And he's going to give you a little bit of a discussion on climate change and the seriousness of climate change and the importance of doing something about it now before it is too late. And so I'd like you to watch this video clip here. And as you watch this clip, answer these questions. And again, you can do this in your own notes. This is not an assignment. This is practice. But who created this video? What are the qualifications of the speaker? Is he an expert on the topic? So that would be David Suzuki here, right? Who is the video's intended audience? So who is he trying to reach in his message? What is the video's purpose? What does the speaker want the audience to do? What techniques are used in the video to hold your attention? And from what point of view is the information presented? And can you think of another point of view or another side of the issue that this video is not presenting? And so what we're doing here is we're just trying to think critically about a media message that we're receiving here. You could watch this video clip and you could decide that, David Suzuki is an expert and I trust him and what he's saying sounds truthful and he's giving facts to back himself up. And if that's the case, great. But we should still question and make sure that what we're listening to and what we're seeing is something that we trust and something that sounds reliable. Okay. If we don't ask ourselves questions when we watch media messages or listen to media messages, we tend to just believe what we're hearing or seeing without thinking. And the whole point is to think deeper and to think critically. All right, with that said, we get to consolidation and to our second assignment of this activity. And so you wrote a news report draft, draft number 1 in the last activity. So in this activity, you're going to be asked to do a second one. So you will now write your second news report draft. You will be given a headline and a photo. You will use the headline and photo to create your own facts. And I put facts in quotations because unlike a real news report that would be published in a newspaper, where the journalist would have to use true, authentic facts that they had researched and that they had gathered, you're allowed to make up your own facts, so to speak, here when you create your article. And so I've given you a headline, "Animals Escape from Detroit Zoo," and I've given you a photo, and you're going to turn that into a news report. What you're not receiving this time around is the facts. I'm not going to give you the who, what, where, why, when, and how. I'm going to allow you to create that on your own. So maybe this is a little more challenging than our first news report draft. You've got to do a little bit more creation of the article on your own. The same kind of rules apply to this draft as the last one. This is not a research assignment. You're creating your own news report based on a headline, and so here's your headline and a photo, and you will have to invent the facts in order to determine your news report's 5 W's and an H. So I would suggest brainstorming details that you could include in your news report. For example, you could invent details on which animals escaped from the zoo and what happened after they escaped. You will also have to create quotations, because remember, every news article should have quotations from witnesses or maybe local officials, or in this case, since it has to do with a zoo, maybe from zoo employees. And ultimately, your news report should include all of these requirements. So you should have a headline, a photo, and a caption. Remember, you're going to include this photo with the zebra here, but you're going to have to include your own caption below it. You're going to have a byline with your name, a date line. It doesn't matter to me what date. You can use the date that you're actually writing the news report and assume that this is a current news event. You're going to have a lead paragraph with your 5 W's and H, approximately 2 sentences long. Remember, short paragraphs in a news report. You should write in third person. There should be no I unless it's part of a quotation. You should include facts that provide additional information about your 5 W's and H. You should have at least two quotations from people related to the event. And like I said, you should have short paragraphs and organized paragraphs, starting with the most important detail in the lead paragraph, and then progressing to the lesser important details as you move on in your news report. Once you've done your draft, submit it to me. Here's your Dropbox, and I'll provide feedback. And ultimately, you'll choose one of these 2 news reports that you've done in the last 2 activities, and you'll polish it, and you'll resubmit it at the ending of this unit. If you have any questions about Activity 3 or about the 2 assignments in it, please let me know.